Welcome to the Flexible Philosophy Podcast, where we explore psychology, religion, and philosophy in everyday life. We are both therapists, but we're not your therapist. If you need support for your own situation, please reach out to a professional therapist. We are so glad you're here. Let's kick it off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special edition of Flexible Philosophy, because today we have our very, very first guest ever. We have actually convinced someone that we know to come on this podcast with us. So welcome to Cristine.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm very excited.
This might be close to our 1-year anniversary of the podcast too.
Ooh.
So very appropriate
Wow.
circumstances. Yep.
How do you feel coming on such a monumental time?
Feel so honored. It's lovely to be here.
Well,
Celebrate with you.
you are the ultimate good sport. Thank you for coming on our show. We do not yet have swag to give you, but if we ever make some, we will send it your way. A fanny
great.
pack.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, we have stickers.
Stickers. So we are experimenting with some long form interviews for our podcast, and Cristine will be our first participant. So we're asking people for their life story with religious experience.
So get a snack, everyone, and buckle up because Cristine has agreed to take us through her whole story, and I cannot wait.
What's your level of distress right now? 0 being neutral to 10 the worst you can imagine.
0 is neutral.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Maybe like a 3.
Okay. All right. I will be assessing throughout. I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
Aleesa will be the trauma-informed interviewer today. Tell us, to get started, how did religion become a part of your family before you were even there?
I don't know the actual facts on this one, so I think the story I make up is my mom was raised in the Methodist Church, my dad was raised in a Lutheran church, and from what I know, when I was born, they were not involved in the church at all. So I think kind of a very generic, they went to church is what the story I make up about their upbringing.
What are some of your earliest memories with or without religion?
I do have this really, I don't know if I'm 3 to 5 years old memory of looking up at the sky and praying on my own, because I don't know where the influence of church would have been at that point. I say I didn't grow up in a religious family. I didn't grow up in the church. And so I had that. There's that memory. There's a little stint in 2nd grade when my sister was going through confirmation class, which I think that was with a Lutheran church.
Okay.
Down the street. And then again in 5th grade. Did y'all have religious ed?
No, I saw that in your timeline.
So there was a church across the parking lot from my elementary school.
Okay.
And all of us, except for the one Jewish kid, walked across the parking lot during once a week and did what they called religious ed.
This is all that stuff that just got approved recently. In your school board, Jennifer, it was
Yep.
technically not on school property, but public school kids
Oh.
could go off and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My home, from where I graduated high school and stuff like that, my home school district just approved all of that too, where it's they can kind of walk off school property and then do these Bible studies or whatever, and then go back to class. Kind of they get out of study hall and go do that, and then come back onto the public school government property type of deal.
Yeah, it's called LifeWise Academy. It was started in Ohio, Aleesa. Thank you very much. She's from Ohio. But what state was that?
Indiana.
Indiana. Somehow Indiana public
heartland.
schools had already figured that out decades ago.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, that was
Yeah.
early 90s.
Was it a small town?
It was the 2nd biggest city in Indiana. So
Okay.
not super small. It was Fort Wayne.
I know the Indiana trivia. 2nd biggest city. It's Fort Wayne. Greetings from Fort Worth.
Yeah. Texas.
Okay, so you were not regularly going to church every Sunday, but
No.
the concept of God was there. So you were the idea of prayer was there, and somehow your sister was getting confirmed.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Church was not the regular occurrence. As far as I know, my dad's an atheist. Just kind of grew up in that kind of environment. So church was not a priority.
Okay. Until what happened next?
Middle school, I landed myself in the middle of like a group of 8 girls.
Yeah.
At least 6 of them were Christians. And so I just kind of like, that became my core group of friends for the rest of my high school.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was a really significant piece of like exposure to Christians. I don't think of middle school as anything with like church very much. And it wasn't until my freshman year of high school, my parents separated. And let me set the stage with my like the best friends of that time.
Okay.
They come into play later. And so say it now, we might be able to carry it through. So we had KDT and KDC.
Okay.
And KDT, her parents were also going through like separation and divorce. And so she and I kind of bonded on that regard, right? And I had not been interested in going to church, but she extended the invite to come, and I think perfect storm, if you will, right? Like things are tumultuous at home.
Yeah.
Like it definitely lends itself to a space of like comfort, security, stability, acceptance.
Yeah.
I started going to church with her like somewhat regularly, but wasn't committed, but I would still go. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So,
You were
like,
on the
not
fringe.
much, but yeah, keep me at the distance. She invited me to D group. So yeah, D group on Wednesday nights, sometimes Sundays. And that was just kind of my first taste of the church and all of that.
How many of your friends had True Love Waits rings?
I don't feel like that was as much in that little group as you would think.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. Get your prayer requests going on.
Yeah.
Learn about the Bible, and then probably like hang out or go home. Do I share about the boyfriend that was a Christian that cheated on me or not?
Please tell us the dating story. Everyone wants to, I can tell the listener wants to know right now. They're dying to know.
Yes. So I think we dated for like 3 months, right? Which is a long time in high school terms. But yes, definitely remember him trying to get a little handsy. And then definitely like not very long into it, right? And then he's like pestering me to go to church. And then I did kind of start going with Katie, but I do remember he starts pestering me about going to church, and I like get so angry. I'm just like, why do these people keep asking me to come to church with them? Like, just leave me.
Because Indiana.
It's so true. Yes. So then he ends up cheating on me when he goes to band camp that summer with another girl. And so like I get you're like 15. So I mean, I'd be mad too today, but still a 15-year-old, and you're like, you're a Christian and you cheated on me, like the hypocrisy. And so I definitely had an eye for the hypocrisy in the church.
Oh, okay.
And like Christians, and I was like, I don't really want to be a part of all of this. Like, it just didn't appeal to me.
Interesting. You got your first taste of like, there's a lot of religious talk here and not great behavior. So you're doing D group and you started dating, first boyfriend.
Yeah. Parents get divorced sophomore year. Then church camps, I think, were a significant piece of my story. So like first year of church camp, I'm like 16. And that one was just like informative, but again, very light. It was with this church that I had been with, and like did the whole hell simulation situation, trying to scare people into going to heaven.
How'd they set it up?
It's little skits that are put on play like in different rooms of the church. So like you go to this first room and it's like, oh, these people are at a party and stuff like that. And basically this person sins, and you're walking through a gospel tract with skit by skit. Then you go in the next room, and then it's these demons grabbing at the person, and they're like, oh no, like I'm succumbing to their agenda or whatever. And then you go to all these rooms, and it's like the other people that got influenced by that person being a stumbling block. And then, oh, that one decision affected all these other people and ruined their lives. And then you go into the next room, and then it's like, but Jesus can fix all that. And then the next room is, this is what happens when you repent. And then it's kind of like this simulation of being cleaned again. And then you go into the final room, and it's like, It's like when you walk into the warehouse at IKEA, it's a sudden they make you go into these little groups of all these people that are just waiting to make you say the prayer, you know?
Oh, like
Yes.
straight pressure to pray the prayer from the end of the house.
The prayer.
That's a
And yeah,
factory.
it's at the end of the thing. And then you have to fill out these cards of like, I gave my life to Christ. And then they report you as a number at their next service. So
Yes.
that's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
Hell house.
Mm.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really left a mark.
They tend to.
Oh, I want to know if Aleesa filled out the name. Like, did you?
I'm such a people pleaser. I left those cards all around town. Like, I went through the motions a lot. Then in Pentecostal circles, I was also known to like do all the tongues and stuff like that, even though I didn't grow up like that. So it's like, I don't know. I always point back to like mass hysteria, psychological effects of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, you fall in with a group, you know, in their doings. At least I did. That was kind of like my symptom of my involvement. But I probably filled out the cards, you know, put my phone number down. They have all this free labor just collecting all these cards, and they're texting people and come visit us sometime. But remember, you came to our hell house last Saturday. Any thoughts? Story.
No, I love it. I'm glad you described it. That was good enough. I don't remember. I don't have enough to script memory of mine. So I liked that.
Yeah.
But you are getting in a little deeper at this point because you've gone to some Sundays and then you're doing like some discipleship groups. And then I would say in general, church camp is another layer of we're going to really hit you home with this message and get you geared up to be internalizing this as your identity and on.
Slowly building for sure.
Yeah, it's building.
Yeah, and in church camp, you know, there's such highs of the emotional week and all of that. And I think we just all know a lot of people commit their lives to Jesus at a church camp. So I was still very much in my logical brain. Then at that point though, like I just remember, you know, I was like, I'll take this information and I'll think on it. I wanted, and this is actually how I am in general. I've figured out is that I'll think about something for a really long time and then decide if I want to do something. And this might have been one of the first times I really did that because it's like once I do it, then I'm all in. But I give myself lots of time to decide if this is the right choice for me. So, so like next year, go to the next church camp with a different friend. At that point, I remember like what did we have? We had like the confess your sins night. Yeah. And so not the same night, but the next night, then you can like commit your life to Jesus. So yeah, I went through that process and I like overcommitted. I
relatable
actions.
Same.
Understood them. And I left the building that we were in and I went across the grass to this other building and knelt at the like whatever they're called, whatever things you kneel on. And I was essentially committing my life to ministry, which I accidentally did.
You didn't know until you got there and they were like, thank you for coming to commit your life to ministry.
But of course, people pleaser, right? You just go ahead and like do it. So.
Well, and that like at that point, that's like the highest honor that could be bestowed upon a person. Yes. You know, so even if it's like, oh, like I didn't know I was signing up for this type of deal, it's so celebrated. Or in certain circles, people are prophesying over you and God needs someone exactly like you to do this exact work type of thing. So I think a lot of times it is so celebrated that you're kind of like, oh, I could get involved with this.
Yeah. I mean, you're on board because you like that positive reinforcement too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You get to be the best. The best people do the life commitment. Like it's in our youth group, you could only come because you're going to give your life to Jesus, rededication, or a lifetime commitment of like a vocational commitment. And like those were the three ways that, so if you've already maxed out your rededications, then like the only next level, but you went straight there. You were like, forget these steps.
Like stars. Yeah.
Fast track.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Did you feel in your heart that you were going to be doing vocational ministry at that time? Or were you like, okay, well, I'm just going to go with that, but I don't really think it.
Oh no. At that time it was like an oops.
I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah, But I figured like God would take care of that. At the time, I just didn't. I think I laughed about it and maybe felt a little like embarrassed because
Like
I went to the wrong place. But
someone's praying for you and they're like, open all the doors for Cristine. And you're like, or close them.
I think the next biggest thing is going away to school. So my parents are divorced at that point, right? And just financially, my freshman year of college, I stayed in town and like the community college there.
Okay.
Most people didn't go away to school. So the friends from high school, would you call it youth group? Like essentially whatever youth group was, those folks mostly stayed. I was friends with them. And I just remember what we would do. Like we would go to the small group thing, but we would go out to eat. We would then end up at a friend's house in his basement, like playing video games and watching movies. And it was I'm like so unimpressed with Christianity. Right? Like and I know Jennifer, you know me, like I long for depth in relationships and intentionality. And I think that was there way back then. So I just remember being like, there has got to be more to Christianity than this. Like, this is so lame. So I think there was a hunger stirring in my heart for depth and more. And so leading into the next year, I ended up doing a national student exchange program. So I went out of state to University of Tennessee for 2 semesters. So you paid like in-state tuition and you could go out of state, if that makes sense.
Nice.
And that's where I got involved in a campus ministry and the church there. That whole next chapter is a really significant.
Was this the depth that you were seeking?
Yeah, the ministry and the church were connected.
So it was the church's ministry for college students, because like all different churches can have their on-campus umbrella.
Yes. Yeah. And what struck me the most, because of, how college campuses are, right? First few weeks of school, they are just like, all on campus, trying to like get you involved in all of the things. But like genuinely what I think stood out was like people were happy, they were joyful, they were thoughtful, they were engaged, they were, like they were doing the whole, what's the right phrase? They were drawing me out, right? Like, I don't know if you guys use that phrase. That was a phrase that we used a lot, like draw the person out. And like they were
being salt, or it's like the salt became unsalty. Like you have to be salt so people be attracted to it. You have to be really shiny so people see something that is marketing.
I was thinking love bombing, but I guess that's a word nowadays.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say that.
Yeah, and there was like a passion there that just had it like I had never seen before. And so going from like just watching movies and playing video games in the basement to like passionate worshiping, it was such a contrast for me and definitely like drew me into something that I've had been longing for.
Yeah.
Especially that vulnerable time where it's like the first time away from home and everything, and you don't know anyone. Having all these people all of a sudden take an interest in you, it's super attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like out of state, so I knew no one.
Oh, yeah. Totally isolated.
Finding friends and finding community and all of that was like high on the priority list for sure. Yeah.
So you join up with that ministry your sophomore year, and then do you start going to that church too?
Yes. I think there was like a little bit of time where I wasn't involved in it, and then it just like
pulls you in,
and then I was in it.
Okay.
So yeah, that became my source of all community essentially, and like where I would spend any extra time. I was with those people. End of sophomore year, I'm supposed to go back home. Like it's a 2-semester commitment, and then you go back to where you came from, or you pay out-of-state tuition, which is kind of pricey. No. I just remember there was a time where I was like, am I going back home? Am I not going back home? All of these things. And even like having a testimony around like the decision to stay in Knoxville and to stay and like, it's a lot of stuff with like what I already said with moving there, but then like fell in love with the local church and like didn't want to leave that community. And so then I decided to stay in Knoxville, and I transferred schools and like just so that I could stay involved in this church.
What did your parents think?
I know, right? Solid question. Yeah, well, actually, the week before, I actually went back and forth on them. So I had decided I would just go home and, close this chapter and whatever. And then 5 days later, I changed my mind.
Oh.
And, parents are divorced, so I'm having 2 different conversations with them. I don't know what they thought. I was raised to be very independent and make my own decisions, and they're not going to tell me to not do something. And I made it work, right? I transferred schools and got scholarships, and it wasn't really that expensive. But yeah, I should probably ask them. That would be an interesting, like, what were you thinking when I decided to stay?
But it was not necessarily Tennessee or education. It was, I need to be a part of this church group. And I like how you've evolved to have a testimony now about it. Okay, so what happened after you ended up staying for the next year of school? Anything change with your devotion, or what was church like for you? How would it have been interacting with Cristine at that time in your life?
I would be the one asking you all the questions and sharing the gospel with you and inviting you to Bible study and inviting you to church and inviting you, like, all the things.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you've come a long way from being you in high school where you're like, I'm not sure about this and I'm annoyed people want to invite me to church. Now you're doing the inviting.
I am 100% doing all of the inviting because that's how you got your gold stars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just always there, like always at all the things.
Okay.
And I mean, that's where we were college students too, right?
Yeah.
And like all the friends would be the ones like at the second floor in the library and coffee shop and doing the study groups and flag football. And
are you dating at this point?
Oh, yeah. So that church was part of Sovereign Grace Ministries at the time, and Josh Harris, purity culture, like, is so ingrained in that culture. So so dating is offline, right? But courting could be on the table if you are of eligible age to like get married, because we have to constantly monitor how long are you dating before you're like tempted to sin and have like sexual, anything, not just like sex, right? Anything intimate, anything that's lustful. So that definitely put a damper on dating. Or
in my circle, they called it, don't be disrespecting each other.
Ooh.
That was their way of saying like physical boundaries.
And this is like right from the Josh Harris, like writing, like, kissing another man's wife vibe. Like you shouldn't be touching anybody from the opposite sex because there's someone else's, all that. Yeah.
Well, there's someone else's before they're even someone else's.
But like, if you make out with your current boyfriend or whatever, you break up, and then you have to not only repent to God, but there was all these practices of writing letters to your future husband and apologizing to your future husband. You were already dealing with this breakup at a very formative time in your life. And I would say developmentally appropriately exploring stuff, whatever. And then all this shame that goes into it of having to apologize to your future husband that you've never met before. That amount of pressure on like a 17, 18, 19, etc. year old, it's nuts. It's crazy. And then for Josh Harris years later to say, never mind, all right, forgiven.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
Are you wondering if anyone can be your husband? What is the idea there?
I mean, there were some cute boys that sophomore year. Yeah. So there was definitely an interest in the boys, and there was a off limits, and you could be friends, but I don't know if you guys had that, like, because purity culture was so ingrained in this culture. I remember trying to have conversations with guy friends, right? And then you kind of reach this like space in the conversation when you're like, all right, it's probably been too long. We can't probably talk much longer, so we have to part ways. Not because we're not enjoying the conversation mutually, but because it might see us, or there's this unspoken expectation of time you can actually talk before it's too much.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. I'll like pull a thread through on that because it took years to be able to just have guy friends as an adult, you know,
Yeah.
like things that should be just basic, normal things. The impact of some of that stuff on the years later is
Yeah.
fascinating. It's called trauma.
It's so interesting that while you're having a conversation at that age, it's so much ingrained to where you start to think, oh no, am I cheating on my future husband? Or the guy could be thinking, I might be cheating on my future wife by having a certain thought or something like that. And so, yeah, it's almost like obsessive compulsive cycles. If I feel some sort of connection, I need to back off of that, creates a weird social dynamic for sure.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like wanting a relationship but not being allowed to. And like,
Yes.
I kind of remember this time when I thought I needed to talk to my small group leader about my crush because it was just so distracting. And,
Yes.
like having to confess that I'm a girl that likes a boy.
Yeah.
Because, all of those silly prayers, like, take this away from, if it's not meant to, I'm sure I prayed this. I'm sure.
I don't know why we all prayed the same prayer. Please take this away from me.
We were told.
Please take my normal developmental self away from me.
20-year-old self that should like people. Yeah, I had a few pre-courtship, not a few. I had at least one pre-courtship situation.
Okay, a situationship.
I think he called it an intentional friendship.
Oh gosh.
And that only lasted a little bit. So, and then I don't know if we're going through like relationship stuff, my husband, current husband, or now husband of 18 years, pulled me aside. I think we were seniors.
Okay.
And pulled me aside from like our small group. And I thought he liked another girl. And he like cornered me. And I was like, will you court me? And I was just totally thrown off because I was so confused and was convinced he liked this other girl. And I mean, it's like still a really funny story that we occasionally talk about. But yeah, I did the right thing and I took time to pray about it. And I, so that's so great of me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, made him wait like 2 days and prayed about it and decided to give it a go. And here we are forever later.
And it begins under the Sovereign Grace umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So he asked you to court him, and then what happens from there? You say yes 2 days later. Does that mean you start dating, but you can't hold hands, or what?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, what are the rules?
Is your courtship supervised?
It was not.
Okay.
Not officially, no. Because I think, this is going to sound so arrogant, but like, I think in other people's eyes at the time, we were so godly and mature and all the things that we didn't need that. That wasn't a standard practice though, too.
Okay.
And he did talk to our small group leader and kind of got the green light and all the things. Actually, the funny thing about you asking about holding hands is that he and I did hold hands. And everyone else, it was a no-no until you're engaged. Like, you can hold hands once you're engaged. Was the standard practice at the time.
This is Duggar rules.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I just remember like another couple that had started courting about the same time as us, who may or may not have been the person that had the intentional friendship with me.
It's a closed system.
There was a little bit of situation happening. But yeah, they would give the disapproving, I can't believe they're holding hands. Like,
that was a controversy because you guys held hands and you were not engaged. You were only
We were not engaged. We were only courting and probably hadn't been that long because our courtship in total was like 2.5, 3 months. So I like to tell anyone that has been in that church or whatever, because we have friends, from there still. It's like we were in the peak of the shortest courtships. And I don't know if we won, but there were a lot of really, really short, ours was 3 months and then we were married 3 months later. So like our whole relationship was like 7. Yeah. It was like 7 months from start to marriage.
Yeah. You see that a lot of Bible colleges,
Yeah.
Spring by spring.
Yeah. That's very fast.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes. And then the woman typically drops out of school after her freshman year to be a stay-at-home mom while the husband finishes the degree. You guys were seniors, so people saw you as kind of like, more mature on the side of things.
Yeah. So I think the men were kind of coached, like, don't start a relationship before you can act on marriage. And you can't really like act on marriage and like be out on your own, independent financially until you're like graduating. So a lot of guys didn't start relationships until they were seniors. So, and then he and we got married no, let me tell you about, so we basically didn't even hug before we got married. Like that's kind of, so obviously kissing's off the table. Obviously anything else is off the table. Yeah. So like we barely had any physical contact before getting married, which I think is wild.
Yeah.
I remember one time in the library, we constantly checked in while we were engaged with like, is this causing you to lust?
Oh my gosh.
Disrespectful. So there was a time when we're just sitting across from each other in the public library, all fully clothed, right? And his hand touches my calf.
Oh my gosh.
And I like had to check in and be like, that is causing me to lust.
Okay. That's what's happening.
Level that we're at.
Oh gosh.
Yes, get married, all the things.
So it sounds like you are playing out like the exact model of courtship and relationship that was given to you. Like you are doing it to a T. I'm assuming people are looking up to you guys and thinking these two are the best. Look at them. And
they'd be like, they're the best. But like give me a instruction manual and I will try to do that.
Yeah.
To a T. And like Boy Meets Girl by Josh Harris it's the manual on how to court successfully and get married.
And you're following it to a T. And it's like also, I was not part of Sovereign Grace. I was over in Southern Baptist land. But that was getting passed around our circles for sure. I was getting by, and the idea of courtship was so pervasive. But you're at home base at the church that is filtering that into the wider evangelical circles. So like you're in the hot seat of it all.
Yeah, because at some point Josh Harris became the president of Sovereign Grace Ministries during our time there.
Yeah.
Just to understand the funnel.
Yeah, the connections too. Okay, so you get married. Did you finish your degree as a senior?
I finished my degree. So we got married in December. My husband had a 1-year master's program. So I think he was finishing his master's that spring of 2008.
Okay.
And then I was finishing my degree as well. So yes, I graduated.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
You beat the odds.
You did beat the odds.
That's pretty close.
What was next after you guys both graduated? What did the church tell you to do, actually?
No, actually, this is where my husband is not the rule follower person. Like, I am the rule follower.
Okay.
And he's the one that's going to ask questions and he's going to do his own thing and he's not going to be just like told what to do. So we've got some contrast here, right? Kiwi had a very strong pull towards international missions. And part of us deciding to actually get engaged and get married was there was a connection there of us returning to Romania and being missionaries there for a certain amount of time. I can't untie that. Like those two were in a really unhealthy way. Part of us deciding to get engaged was also us deciding to go to Romania together.
Oh, okay.
So, I know, right? The 22-year-old, you shouldn't make these decisions, but we did. And so, yeah, after we graduated, we moved to Romania for 5 months.
Wait, had you already been there? Because you said go back.
The 2 summers in college, we went to Romania and did an English camp.
Oh,
circle back to camps.
Camps are still a thing in your life.
That's an interesting
This
piece of
was
the puzzle.
English camp with an evangelical agenda, though.
100%. 100%. Line, which I don't even remember other themes. I think I did it 3 years because I think we went twice, just one-offs, and then we had moved there and helped put on a third one.
Okay.
Yeah, we are doing a Christian evangelical, invite all the non-Christians to English camp and then teach them about Jesus is what we were doing.
Did you like doing the camps? Was it a good experience? Was there cognitive dissonance?
It wasn't, but right now, I'm like, oh, that's gross. I don't know. I think that was a really significant piece of like exposure to Christians. I know I told you earlier, I'd be the one evangelizing you, but I was very much the friendship evangelist person, not the go knock on people's doors or like talk to them on campus. We were supposed to sign up for that kind of stuff and do that. And I always hated it and avoided it.
What was Romania like? Like, did you get to experience the culture there? Was it an adventure for you?
So the word adventure is a little triggering, I won't lie.
Oh,
that was what everyone leading up to us going. And then when we came back, everyone was like, oh, what a great adventure. And you're like, you have no idea like what we are literally giving up to go do this. So when we moved to, it was like we thought we were going for 2 years and then things went awry and we came back at 5 months. But it's just like, no, I'm like, actually, okay, you're not really triggering me. But that word was what was used over and over again. And no one understood the experience or had an actual curiosity for like, how are you guys doing? How can we actually support you? What was it actually like for you? It was just all like this assumption that you had a grand adventure.
But you're saying it was actually really hard for you.
It was actually it was probably a really significant turning point in spirituality stuff, at least for me. Like, yes, had some disagreements with the leadership over there and what we were doing and what evangelism is and all these things. There were the micro things that happened, but at one point hit really deep depression, loneliness over there. And then like, the cognitive dissonance, I think, was there, if I'm using the word right, of like, we gave up all of this, like all of, our next steps in life were get a job, like get a real paying job.
Yes.
Like husband had a secure shoe-in job and we could make real, your first real jobs and making real money and being adults. And we put all that on pause so that we could go live our lives in Romania and like reach out to college students. It was a similar setup too, like that church in Romania. It was like church and a campus ministry.
Okay.
Similar to like our church and campus ministry in Knoxville. And so it just felt like very much at home. And we loved the people. That was also a big part of why we went back. It was like we loved and had legitimate friendships there. And it wasn't like we really wanted to do it.
Okay.
So there was a true desire. But yeah, it was not what we thought it would be. And there was a lot of shame around that whole time. So like coming back, feeling like we had failed. And we had not been supported by the church. Our church here in Knoxville, supported us in word, right? To send us out and let us go do it. But
like they gave you permission?
Basically.
Okay.
And to ask their contacts for money and to fundraise on their own.
Yeah, actually on the fundraising part. So my husband and I do not love fundraising, asking people for money, any of that kind of stuff. It's the last thing I ever want to do. The interns at the campus ministry, right, in Knoxville, there was a whole system of who can ask who, and if this person's already being asked and supporting an intern, then you can't ask them. Also, there's a whole database, which I get and I can respect that. And then also, our perspective at the time was we're not interns for that campus ministry, but we have to abide by those rules. So like if there was someone we were really close to that also supported international missions, like we weren't allowed to ask them to support us.
It's a pyramid scheme.
Oh, wow. So there, yes, that one.
Yes.
And there's all these rules. So the dating rules have now flowed into, there's just lots of rules and hierarchy. And
a lot of prescriptive, like here's how to live. Like if you do these things, you will live and have a godly life, or children that behave you, or a godly marriage.
So you get there, you're starting to feel really depressed. It sounds like you're bumping up against a system that makes it difficult for you to flourish. They've sent you in word, which means they've given you permission, but you're fundraising to support yourselves, which means you basically have no job, right? Like you're broke. Is that like accurate?
Like, yes and no. Like we were fine. I mean, also like it doesn't cost a lot to live there.
Okay.
Actually, the biggest thing it took more faith. So we thought back in the day, like it took more faith for us to come back early because it was in the middle of the recession, like 2008?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, December 2008. We were deciding I was coming back for a wedding, and it was like, do we come back and stay, or do we go back? You know, it just didn't make sense to like go back and forth.
Yeah.
It's a long ways away. So we decided to like cut it short and come back and stay. And at the time, it took more faith for us to do that because husband didn't have a job. It's in the middle of the recession, all of those things. So we would have actually been okay financially staying there and just like riding it out. But it just wasn't healthy for us to stay there at the time.
So you come home as cut short mission trip missionaries.
Yes.
Who did not go on an adventure.
No adventuring there. Yep.
You've now been married really quickly, moved overseas. That's like a tumultuous season.
There's a lot.
Lots
First year
happened.
is a lot.
Yes.
And we moved back.
And you moved back to Knoxville and keep going to that church again? Okay.
Yes. And that's, there was like, so much shame wrapped around our time in Romania. So like people would ask because they were like, I think they were just genuinely curious or thought we went on an adventure and now we're back and what happened. And I just remember, if we want to talk nervous system for a second.
Yeah.
Inside, I was like wanting to just run away. But you can't do that when people are asking you questions. So outside, you know, I guess the fawn response of just sitting there and bearing through this really uncomfortable conversation. I definitely pivoted or defaulted to my husband answering those questions because I just couldn't answer them, if that even makes sense, right? Just so shut down about it.
Do you think you needed at that time that would have been supported? Like best case scenario?
A small group of people that actually knew what happened and were checking in on us for weeks after we came back. Because I was so low. I was so depressed.
Yeah.
So we had one person that was in charge of us while we were there. And then when we came back, he was pivotal to us surviving that time. But it was awful. And then if you want to talk hierarchy for just a moment, we're like, I don't know if we had been back 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, maybe not even that long. We're at church. Like it's before the big Sunday service. Okay. And I'm in a chair, whatever. And the senior pastor comes through to the front, who we hadn't talked to. So basically the person that was in charge of us was a missions pastor and had the connections with the church in Romania. And it made sense why he was our lifeline, seriously. But the big church, right, really had their hands off all things with us during all of the stuff with Romania. And so the senior pastor comes walking by and I think pauses. I mean, I'm on the verge of tears like at all times when we come back. So you can just imagine how I looked. But he did pause and he was just like, how are you doing? And I burst into tears.
Oh.
Because I'm just a flippin' mess.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, you guys should come in. We should have a meeting. So husband calls to make an appointment for our meeting with the senior pastor to see how we're doing. And I think it took another 2-3 weeks to get on his calendar kind of situation. So because they have that like barrier, you know, like the admin person probably didn't know if they call, they should get on the calendar quicker. But it's just all of these protective measures are in place.
Yeah. So
really,
you don't have to go into detail about what happened in Romania, but it sounds like it got really bad.
I think the biggest thing that I remember is my husband and I disagreed with the leadership there over the definition of evangelism.
Okay.
And it's like 20-something-year-olds, right, who are coming from a very like elitist, we know everything, we know the right way, and we're also 20-something-year-olds, like we know everything.
Yeah.
So you've got to like put it into context.
Familiar.
It's layered. We're coming in going, you guys are wrong. Like evangelism is not just doing the right thing. Evangelism is sharing the literal gospel with someone. And like we had so many awkward conversations with the leadership. We'd have circles of people and be talking and debating this. My default setting became this shut down, awkward, avoid in conversations.
I'm getting the vibe. It feels like doctrinal, long drawn out doctrinal debates with theology bro type vibe, where it's like also pressured because it's not just like, hey, you can see it this way, we can see it this way, but literally salvation and souls are at stake. So like, we have to get this right. The pressure on you guys from what had been handed to you as your responsibility as missionaries, and then you're trying to coordinate that with people who don't see it the same way. And then just, and then add on the social dynamic of a group, circle of chairs where you're trying to hash something out. And there's all these high control social things happening about what you're supposed to say and do. But you don't even know why you feel horrible. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a really terrible situation to be in.
I just want to like probably caveat the church in Romania was not high control.
Yes, but you were coming from a high control group that was telling you this is the way it is. There's lots of rules and they're very important, trying to teach them. And
we didn't come there to be like just doing the right thing. We came there to be saving souls. And so there's like, there was maybe the cognitive dissonance comes in there of like, we signed up to share the gospel. That is our job. And if we're not doing that, then we're literally just living off other people's money and like living in another country. And like, we're not doing what we came and said we're doing.
Yes.
There was a value. What's the right word?
Conviction.
There you go.
Yeah,
that we were doing the wrong thing. These people's money could be used for better things, or I don't know.
And you need a head count. Missionaries are supposed to have a head count. How many people have you converted? How many people are baptized? And somebody's going to ask you that question. There's pressure on you to perform that job.
Fair.
So throughout the years, having deconstructed and stuff, what do you do with the moral injury of going to another culture? You're in their playing field, and the colonialism aspect of American high control religion and having your own agenda for that. The reason why I can articulate all of that is because you're in good company, right? Okay. Well, you're in good company.
What do we do with that?
But what do you do with the moral injury? And that there's the shame of coming back, but I think it's also, was there some good in seeing a community that was not high control? How do you reconcile all that? Because I think that's how a lot of deconstruction starts, when it's maybe I wasn't right when I was so dogmatic.
Yeah. I don't know what I do with it. Maybe it's still in the box. I mean, it's a solid question for sure. I think there's a lot of, I've owned my own humanity in a lot of ways, like through deconstruction and healing and maturing and all of that, where it's like, that sweet 23-year-old thought she knew all the answers and she was so off base,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Again,
I can't really do a lot.
Yeah. I feel a lot of compassion for the pressure that was, you guys were being the model couple, and even from church camp, from the very beginning of your story, you find yourself in the career, whatever.
Vocational ministry.
You call yourself in the vocational ministry thing, and then here you are, you've just gotten married, and you guys are doing, it was the highest calling to be a missionary. There was like, what's your excuse for not doing that? Because what's the point of existing if you're not going to be saving souls? That, in evangelical Christianity, you guys were doing it. And so then it just feels like I'm imagining how much pressure. And maybe it wasn't even like people are calling you saying, how many people did you save? Because it doesn't even have to be overt. It's the pressure of being in the system for all those years and hearing the sermons. You've internalized the pressure.
So at that time in evangelical Christianity, John Piper said, you either go down into the well or you hold the rope for the people that are down there. But either way, your hand should be bleeding. That was like, at passion conferences and stuff like that. That was the message, right? And so being around from 2006 to 2014, 2015 or so, That was the big driving force of a lot of young adult ministry and stuff, was this higher calling to mission. So it's like, all right, we're in Romania. We're just kind of like going with the flow, doing the right thing as evangelism, and it's all chill. But that's not, my hands aren't bleeding from that. I'm not living this like actual calling into missions or what it should entail. I think that creates a lot of pressure, even if there's no one like counting your cards, you know? Yeah, it creates a lot of pressure. Am I doing it enough?
Yep.
And my husband had experience in China and Tibet. And so he actually had a heart for the unreached people groups. Like Romania's not unreached, like Romania's reached. So there was just hearing you say that kind of brought back some of those memories. Like that was on the docket for a little while to like go to unreached people group.
1040 window.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Like dusting off these files. Yeah. Like if you're not there, it didn't count. Or like, you know, if you really believe you have this calling or this actual testimony into missions or something like that, and you're not in the 1040 window, which for our listener who may not know what that means, it's the latitude lines of 10 above the equator to 40 latitude. That's where the most unreached people are in the world. It's basically the Middle East, India, China, that area of the world. So yeah, if you have this call to missions, or the whole fundraising aspect just makes you double down on all of that mission. If you're not in that window, there's a certain like bottom tier of like, oh, you're just reiterating what they already know. But they're John Piper. There are people dying, without hearing the gospel and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's never enough. The feeling is we always need to be doing more, and it's so pervasive. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's the belief too that like once all the unreached people groups have heard the name of Jesus, or there's at least one believer in every people group, then Jesus will return, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard that version also.
Yeah, so the stakes are high to do that.
Yeah, that's what God's waiting for to come back, is for everyone to get the opportunity, which cognitively leaves out the fact that people die all the time without the opportunity. But generally, once the whole geographical world has had the opportunity, then he'll come back because everyone's had the chance. Yeah, everybody got very excited about that idea. We went to Suriname. This is not my story. Yeah, I went to South America and rowed a canoe through the jungle to talk to tribes.
Really?
Stay tuned for that story on the after show.
All right. That'll be on the next one.
Okay, I want to say one more thing about what you had said. This is like rewinding a little bit. So there's also the unseen dynamic that you come home and you said nervous system, and you were like, you're clearly not okay. But there's something going on for you socially that something's telling you it's not okay to show that.
Yeah, you had to be shiny. Oh, yeah. Like there wasn't shiny, happy people. Everyone is happy and joyful and passionate. That's the default. And so if you're struggling, I don't know who you would tell that to. Like, I guess your small group leader, maybe. But yeah, it didn't feel safe to actually be struggling.
I think that's significant that you picked up on the group norms or the social dynamic enough to know I'm not okay, and I cannot tell. It's not a good place or time to tell anyone, really. That's an interesting part of what we were going through.
Yeah, on the outside, you have to be happy, joyful, not joyful.
Yes.
Can I share a little parenthesis?
Please.
I went into counseling to provide counseling to missionaries recently off the field.
What?
Missionary kids. That's the whole reason I became a counselor. Because yeah, that's the whole reason. That was the people that I saw were underserved because of this exact thing. Or for example, meeting missionaries in Mexico where I was, whose kids, like missionary kids, had joined gangs. These families, they couldn't tell their home church because they were going to get their funding pulled, or they were going to force them to either move back or make a decision that they couldn't leave their kid there. So they ended up just living in the silence of it. People struggling with infidelity in their marriage, but having that shiny appearance of a missionary to where they weren't able to share what was going on. So I was like, those people need a space, you know? Long story short, it started because there was this group of missionaries in Panama that like the husbands all got taken into the jungle and were murdered, like never seen again. The CIA got involved in everything and stuff. To this day, they've never found their bodies. But the women and children ended up coming back to the US. And I was like, what happened to them? You know, they're just,
Yeah.
they're just, yep, you're back now, you know? So that's the whole reason I got into, because I wanted to serve missionaries who came back under like extenuating circumstances. Or they call it member care is the industry word for it. But yeah, that's a shame that you guys were just like largely forgotten, even though you made a really big sacrifice.
There was no aftercare, no transition care.
I think a lot of that too was because the emphasis was on the importance of the local church
To do it
So-
for you.
The importance we were not actually doing the right thing because we were off gallivanting around the world
On an adventure.
on an adventure, and we were not investing in our local church. That was the
So-
message to us.
There's the John Piper stuff that I said a moment ago. And then there's the other people that are the missions field is in your own backyard.
Yes,
You had
people.
that clash of Christian culture at the time too. So that would be really hard, like being an international missionary coming back and people just being like, you know, really dismissive of it, or, oh, you done with your adventure now? Now
Plug back in and start serving the church because you haven't been.
Yeah, now it's time to get to work.
Dang.
That's a
rough.
lot.
Aleesa, did you ever actually do any counseling for those missionaries?
Well, I don't think I've encountered some pastors in my counseling. I have had some like informal conversations with people that have been just like beaten up by the pastoral life and the ministry life and stuff like that. Other than some friends, you know, which they're not like counseling clients or anything like that. I feel like that's my vocation. It's not so much my profession to support people in that way. A lot of deconstructed or people that are in the pastorate that I'm just like, oh. I did go to seminary for my counseling degree too. So that played a role also. So it was just transformative. It was like complete, I don't know, what you would not expect from a seminary. It was great.
So you came back from missions and it did not go well. And then it sounds like you were putting on a mask about how you were feeling at the time and people were not supporting you. But what happened after that between you and Paul? What was next in your life?
So coming back, we were in the space of thinking about having babies.
Okay.
It obviously feels very crazy saying that now, but it's kind of where we were on the next thing. So there was a decent season of trying to get pregnant and all of that. Also while healing from all the stuff in Romania.
How long were y'all trying for?
That's a great question. In my brain, what I've remembered is like, it took about a year for each kid to get pregnant. I have PCOS, and so it's just hard to get pregnant with that.
Yeah.
And that was like its own journey of its own. And like being in a church that it was very esteemed to be a wife and a mom. That's really where I was really conditioned to find my identity. So that church in particular, the standard protocol was like 4 children and homeschool them.
Oh, that's helpful to understand. There was like a bar being set.
There was the prescription of, here, do this and you will, like, godly people, godly parents have 4 kids and homeschool. Like, that is just what you do.
So did you want to have children or did you feel like you were supposed to have children, or a combo?
So when I was a teenager, I actually was like, I don't want to have kids and all the things. But throughout college and the campus ministry and being in that environment, back then, what I would have said was, God changed my heart so that all I wanted to do was be a wife and a mom.
Interesting.
Like the scripted, this is what you say. And I think like genuinely that at the time did become my desire. And also kind of like in hindsight, and as we've talked about, that it's like, like my home environment was really chaotic. And so this church offered this pretty package of, if you do these things, and not just the 4 kids in homeschool, but they were very prescriptive in a lot of ways for like individually men and women. And it's like, if you do these things and if you, discipline your children and if you raise them in the way they should go, like it just gave us really nice, tiny path forward of if you do these things, you'll have a good, godly life. And that was really attractive back then.
And was it a nice, tidy path forward? Or what happened when you started having kids? What happened next?
First kid's one thing. And, oldest is like female at birth. And so just very, very tender and sensitive and disciplining biblically went okay, actually. But then bring on the second kid, and it just, that's it. Like the second kid's not the same as the first kid. And the things that worked for the first kid didn't work for the second kid. And it just kind of, even on the like physical discipline stuff, like that started unraveling for us because we were still in that church being told, no, actually we weren't, sorry, but like the ideologies were still there.
Yeah.
And realizing like, we can't discipline this kid the same way. Like it makes it a million times worse and like is not helpful.
Yeah. So parenting in a really rigid structure was helpful in the beginning, or it worked for you a little while, and then you add on a child who it doesn't like work for and it starts to break down. And you're like, this isn't working how you guys say it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you could talk to your peers in the church about when the parenting stuff wasn't working for your second kid?
So to be clear, like we actually weren't in that same church when our second kid actually was born. I think there's a lot of doing things in isolation or like questioning behind closed doors, like the right path forward for us. And I think a lot of things, there was definitely a shift for my husband and I of figuring out what actually works for us instead of just what we're told to do by the church was a big shift.
That's huge. And so parenting brought that up for you guys.
Yeah. And I don't know how much I said this in the first part, but my husband always does lean towards questioning things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not that was brand new, but it was just really a more solid footing of we need to figure out what works for us.
Yeah.
And not just do what is expected of us. And that was in multiple areas, kind of cyclical in different ways.
Do you want to back up really quick and tell us what happened with the original church you came home to before you moved?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011, 2012, there was, I don't even know how to put this into the correct words these days, but it's like there were like documents leaked about the president of the organization and like some abusive power dynamics and that. So that kind of caused like this whole uproar of, it's like the lid had been taken off the box and everything was flying out of it, right? I don't know how long the document is. You can find it on the internet. Like it's hundreds of pages long document that got leaked. And then at the same time, like our church, the pastors of our church were like trying to shove the lid of the box back on so that, and like very common things, right? Like don't talk about this publicly and keep this under wraps, and you're gossiping if you're talking about this behind someone's back. Like all of those, Let's contain the information and don't read the documents. And I don't know if I read the documents. I'm pretty sure my husband read the documents.
That reminds me of some aspects of the bike model.
It does.
Yeah. Power and control? What? Right?
Yeah.
Or which aspects?
Like the I stands for information, Yeah. So, limiting information or insinuating that like you're doing a bad thing if you're sharing information or questioning it. It's like a whole 25% of the power and control model.
I have to side note, we had a bookstore inside of our church, which I know is not the most uncommon thing, but it was like the only approved books you could really read were from the church. This is where we're at. So
yeah. No, that's helpful. That's another element of information control.
Mm-hmm,
like
totally
Aleesa was saying. Yeah.
Certain authors were prohibited.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you read you got like the side eye if you were reading something that's
farewell, Rob Bell.
Exactly. And it's not even, my guess is, and tell me if this is wrong for you, but it's not even, oh, we don't prefer those authors. It's like these people that aren't or outside of the bookstore are like literally misled in their theology, and they could be leading people away from Christ. There's a very heavy spiritual stakes at reading the wrong books.
So there's all this kind of chaos going on in the church, and we are like questioning things, not loving it, would like to leave the church. And a lot at the time, I think we're like 26, 25, 26. So we're still young. The 30-something-year-olds all jump ship. Like they actually left, which I'm like, if we had been in our 30s, we would have done the same. But we didn't. We slid out the back door. So we decided to move states. We moved to Indiana instead of leaving the church and going down the street. So I find that decision really funny. It's like we were trying to avoid the shame and the like, not just shame, but you were shunned, for lack of a better word, if you left the church and went somewhere else in town.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you've moved across the country to solve a religious problem. Same. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so good to know we're not alone.
Yeah.
Just easier to leave, just pack up and leave instead of dealing with the shame from changing churches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, from there, it's like we kind of went on autopilot on like finding a church. So we moved to Indiana, and like I was 33 weeks pregnant when we moved. So it was very much like find a church, do the things, get community, you know, because you're about to be in postpartum season. So that was kind of motivation initially. But I would say the next chunk of time of churches and moving and all the things were just like doing what we thought we were supposed to do and living in autopilot.
Right. Going through the motions.
Going through the motions, yeah.
And you're busy with new babies, which takes over some of that space for worrying about the rest of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So where would you say it kind of came up again? Like you moved again?
So we lived in like Indiana we had a couple stints of 2.5 years here, 2.5 years there. So Indiana for 2.5 years, and then moved out to Redding, California.
Did you go to Bethel?
Did not go to Bethel. We were some of the only people in town, I feel like, that did not move to Redding for Bethel.
Did you ever get approached because people were treasure hunting? Do you know about treasure hunting?
Please tell me.
It's where this is a practice that Bethel specifically engages in. They'll get together and have this like prayer session, and like they'll be like, God, reveal to us the person that like you want us to approach as we like go out in the city as an outreach. Someone will be like, I'm picturing curly hair. Like this person has to have curly hair. Someone else will be like, I'm getting a word that this person will have an orange coat on. Okay. And someone else will say, their hair is like light blonde. Okay. And so they'll all be like, all right, let's go. And they'll just spread out in the city looking for this person. Okay. And then they'll go up to them if you find the person. And I've heard that like they usually would, but I guess that's a conversation for another day. They'd find these people and they'd go up to them and be like, God sent us to find you specifically. And we got these specific characteristics in mind through like numerous people. And that's how important this message is, because it's meant for you specifically today. Treasure hunting. So you were never approached.
No, I don't think so. We did end up being a part of a church that was almost like a spinoff or a cousin or a sister or a niece or something from Bethel. So like I did interact with some Bethelites actually, and we hosted some weeks. Like we had a couple of people live with us that went to Bethel.
Oh.
It's really funny.
So you're kind of adjacent.
You know. So
it's all coming back now.
If you move to Redding, California, like it's gonna happen. That's what that city is. I get the vibe.
Yeah, we were very odd people to be there and not be there for Bethel. Because people move there from all over the world.
To go to their school that has rigorous accreditation.
So for you then, what happened after Redding? Was religion kind of sort of going through the motions still, and then you moved again?
I would say, so Reading, going through the motions as far as going to church, there was a church that we went to initially that reminded us so much of our church in Knoxville. And it was like we spoke the language. They were our people. They welcomed us in. Like we just fit like a glove there, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up not staying and not joining the church because like husband and I were just like, this is too much like the church in Knoxville. And we were on a way of like a path of freedom and space and choices and just a different way of thinking. And we were like, we cannot put ourselves back in that box. We cannot go back to that box.
Okay.
So I think that was a really significant for us to realize that will be dangerous for us. It's so comfortable, but it's in that fundamental space that we will not go back to.
Yeah.
Something I don't think a lot of people understand unless you have lived experience in these communities. And if you understand the expectations or some of the nuance involved, I don't think a lot of people can understand or appreciate how you can be grown adults, married, like financially independent with kids, and still not have the freedom to make your own decisions or, asking permission for stuff that your peers or your neighbors that are outside of the church would be, who are these people and why do they have a say?
Yeah.
Why are you letting other people decide your life path or how to discipline your children or like where to work? I was in churches that like they wouldn't let people go on vacation unless the pastor approved it. What's going on? And these people were a lot older than 20,
What comes to mind is like, why do we as humans seek that authority over our lives for an extended amount of time?
I think it's like the attractiveness of a high control religion. Like you're saying, Aleesa, it's not something that would make sense to like on paper. Why would you join a group that was going to have so much control over your life? But when you sign up for it, like you're saying, Cristine, like it fits like a glove. It feels like home. The people are very caring and supportive. And so I think that also is what people may not understand from the outside is that while you're in the group being highly controlled, it feels really, really good and comforting. And like you're doing the most important thing for your family and you're getting like all of these social needs met at the same time that you're getting things taken away and you don't really see or feel it happening. And so it's such a confusing phenomenon to like explain unless like, I feel like we all understand that because we've like been in it. But it's interesting that you and your husband had experienced enough of the negative to be like, this feels good, but we don't want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of like learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew there was like more to living or more to like we were, I think, both on our own journeys of like unraveling biblical masculinity and biblical femininity. And especially for me of like, surely there's more can I have more to life than just being a wife and a mom? Like what else am I able to do, capable of doing? Like, what do I want to do? Like the world is big to me. It's like the world had become so small because my role is just confined to my four walls of my house. And I was actually wanting and longing to do things that are outside of my home for the good of, like the common good of humanity.
Yeah.
So that was like my own next, like that was a significant shift too. And my journey was like, stepped outside of my four walls and went and became a certified doula. And that was like that was a really big step, which like sounds not that big, but for me, it took so much to step outside of my four walls and very much with the support of my husband. And then that, it's like that then led to becoming a therapist, but had to take that initial plunge, if you will.
Yeah, that's kind of breaking some of the bite features to like go get a job. Like if you're going to be controlled about accessing financial resources, educational and social resources outside of those small communities, you're like out in the marketplace.
And
like
serving others. Like my family's not always the top priority when I have a client that I need to go be on call for, Yeah.
Okay, so you became a doula. I think then you moved to Nashville. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. And and background in Reading days, like Paul and I started the deconstruction process. And I know I've said questioning things a few times, but like we were getting more nitty gritty on like the influence of the church from Knoxville on our lives, and just like trying to slowly peel the layers of the onion back and make changes that fit him and I and like our relationship, instead of it being like a man does this and a woman does this. And, we just kept, I guess, reclaiming our like freedom and autonomy. So yes, then we move to Nashville.
Okay.
And we're still going through the motions. Like,
okay.
Still, okay, we moved to a new city and now we need to find a church home again. Mm-hmm. And at this point it's getting old, and it's definitely not a like what at least I want to do, but we are doing that together because we are Christians. And that's where, like, hindsight, I really started having trauma responses in the church. So like my body started responding in ways that I, at the time didn't know it was a trauma response, but I have memories of like a specific church that we would go to, and our kids were supposed to be, our small kids, probably like 8 and under, were in the worship time of the church. And I felt that pressure and need to like keep them quiet and keep them happy and keep them engaged while I'm supposed to be worshiping. But my body would start, like, Sundays were our worst days. Okay. I would explode in anger and rage. There were times I left the service and like drove off, which was like a really big deal.
That is a big deal. You walked out.
I like left. I was so activated, like so angry. I had to leave. And so then that would like carry over, because then I'd have the shame response of I just like left in rage this church service. And then the rest of the day would be me in a shame spiral. And Sundays became our worst days as a family. So eventually we took a pause from church, and I mean, really, like, we had started going back to like a small group thing on a Sunday, and then COVID happened. And I remember feeling like if I got a breath of fresh air from the time we stopped intentionally going to Sunday morning church, and then COVID happens, like, I don't know, there's just like such a sigh of relief and freedom and being able to breathe and not have that expectation of we're supposed to go somewhere on Sunday mornings because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah. What was it like for your husband, like, since you guys had started deconstructing in California and then you moved to Nashville, like already having some of that mutual understanding together? Like, what was it like for him, if when you were struggling in the worship sessions, or like when you would end up driving off, or like, did you feel like you had support during the shame spiral at that time?
He's really supportive, and it'd be good for me to ask him in hindsight what was his experience, but I think he would probably just like take over trying to take care of the kids and like give me space to calm down and that kind of thing. So like supporting in the ways that he knew how to support. And I think we finally got to the point of like, these are the worst days for our family. Like, is this really worth us making the effort to go when like it just destroys the whole day? And I think that was like the conversation that we eventually decided to stop going, at least for a time.
Like, if the whole family's melting down because of baseball, right? It's like, we're not doing baseball anymore.
Yeah. It is not worth it.
It's like, that's an easy decision, but when you're kind of convinced that your eternity depends on like, obedience, or if you're, like in the Bible, it's like, oh, never stop fellowshipping with the brethren or whatever. Like, if you're convinced that that is the most important thing, then I don't think it's as easy of a decision as quitting a sport or something. You're like, yeah, at some point, it's melting down your guys' whole dynamic, and it ruins your weekend. So as you were deconstructing like biblical femininity and biblical masculinity and stuff, what were some of the aspects that you felt like you were able to reject or reclaim from all those years of teaching?
The first thing that comes to mind, which I just have to say because I can't not say it now that I'm thinking, I think this will be fun. One of the biggest things has been like sexuality, and the church that we were in, the message I got, whether or not that's the message they actually said or not, the message I received as a young 20-something-year-old was like, my husband's purity is dependent on my fulfilling all of his sexual needs at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
So if I'm giving him enough sex, then he's not going to lust. And that's like my job and duty to fulfill.
Yep. Heard that message.
Yes. So
Doesn't get it from you, he'll get it from somewhere else.
And it can't be, but then it's my fault.
Yeah.
So we were just like, because of the podcast and all of that, like we've been talking about some of this and just that message. And it's like, he's like, did they really say that? Like, because he would have the other side of like, well, it's like just such a man's job to not sin and lust and all the things. So I think kind of we've done a lot of work in changing that perspective. I've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work in changing the perspective of like, sex isn't just a duty, which it felt like for, like, we were even doing some work on this, like at year 17 of our marriage, you know, it's just ridiculous how long lasting the trauma from those messages is. So that's one of the biggest ones. That's what came to mind first.
That's helpful. I think that will resonate with a lot of people. The long-term marital impact of purity culture, like it's so much more than just like abstinence before marriage. Like there's so many elements that carry into long-term sexual relationships that are very, very hard, I think, to rewire. Yeah. Great question.
Do you want more examples?
Yeah, we have time.
I think I had a really hard time with young kids at home and being like their everything and being like, I had the message that I was supposed to respond in kindness and love all the time. And so with childhood trauma as some of my background and my nervous system programmed a certain way, like the neediness and the, you know, when they're little, like whining and the crying and all of that, like taxed my nervous system. So, and I was also dealing with postpartum depression after a couple of the kids.
Yeah.
So you kind of have all of that compounding, and definitely had the message of like, I'm sinning if I am not kind to my kids at every response. And so then there was just a constant like guilt and shame that I felt for many years when I was in the church. And then it's like the moving away from the church and, you know, reclaiming identity, but like also understanding my body and my own system. Like there's just so like, I don't just live in constant shame and guilt at all anymore. And I love it. Like, can anyone else want to come join the freedom party? Like, it's over here. So maybe it's not as much like, it does connect to like being a mom and being a woman. Mm-hmm. I guess it's more just like reclaiming, like I'm a whole human and I have needs too. And it's also like, I'm not a big fat sinner if I have a rupture with my kids. Like now I know I can repair that and it's okay. So I guess I have more of the attachment science lens on things too.
The high control element of like, there's a problem that you always need to be looking for in yourself called sin, and it's going to happen over and over all day. And so you live in a shame spiral, a repentant shame obedience spiral where you like, everything has high stakes and you can't just like blow up as a mom and have it be like, whoops, need to work on that. Like it becomes confession to God and prayer and like the Holy Spirit and Satan tempting you. And like, it just colors in all these areas of our lives that end up like causing a lot of distress that's not helpful.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah. So you kind of broke that down in a lot of ways. So what happened after COVID then? We're getting close to the present.
Wait, yeah, 5 whole years. Let's see. I think there was a lot of time of just questioning things and like a slow. Mine was not a one and done like this is when I believe, this is when I don't believe. Mine was like a slow unraveling over and over and over again. So I think there was just a lot of time, I spent a lot of time avoiding dealing with my questions. And then I think honestly meeting you, Jennifer, like was a really big step in like, oh, I have space to have these conversations. Or maybe I wasn't even contributing a lot to our conversations. I was doing a lot of listening to your process. But it was so helpful because it gave me language and then like just space to hear and think and process and mull over for, is that another couple years?
It's percolating. And
it's percolating. Oh, and we forgot. So yeah, grad school happened.
Yeah.
So I went to grad school in April of 2019, started grad school. And actually it overlaps, but that is when I consciously, because I knew there was stuff with religion and church and faith and all of that I needed to deal with. Like I needed to kind of figure out what the heck I believed and what path forward. But I started grad school in 2019 and I metaphorically put all of that stuff in a box and I put it in the back of the shelf or in the back of the closet on a shelf. And I was like, I will just deal with that in like a couple more years, like 2.5 more years. I will maybe look at that box but I like gave myself permission to like not even figure it out.
Yeah.
Which I
love it.
Also was kind of great, right? But yeah, during that time, I did have friends close friends asking me out of concern, like, how are you doing? Where are you at with all of that? And I was just like, I didn't know. And I, at first, didn't like that I didn't know. And then I think I got more comfortable not knowing. And then I think there was like probably an acceptance space of like, I don't know and it's okay. Like, I do remember a conversation saying like, I really wish I had an answer for you. Like, I wish I had an answer for myself and I don't. And I just like, I need that to be okay. And it was a particular friend.
Yeah. It sounds like it was freeing for you to like, number one, not have your paycheck depend on those types of answers like before. And then number two, you had community outside of a specific church that's expected a specific type of answer and stuff throughout life. So you being able to say, I don't know, and I wish I had an answer, like I can explore that. There might be some vocabulary. I can listen to someone like Jennifer, who is not church approved author wise, by the way. Like you can have the freedom to just be like, a little bit more flexible about it, or actually not know, when in so many circles you have to know.
Yeah.
You have to be sure. And Bible verses.
The sin of uncertainty.
Oh yeah. The Sin of Certainty is the book.
Oh, okay. I reversed it.
I think it sounds really freeing for you to be able to have community outside of a church where like so much would ride on you, like being on brand with the answers or with the doctrine or with the like correct cited sources and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning, like grad school was a huge eye opener, right? Like you're just constantly pushed and exposed to new ideas and this whole concept, there's not a right answer. And like, I remember too, like on the whiteboard at one point, a professor was like, describing not deconstruction in like in the religious sense. It wasn't like specific, but it was like, you think like human development. And we go through this whole process and like, mid-20s, you think you know everything. Like if you have arrived in your mid-20s, totally relatable. And then you like deconstruct all that you already know. And then you reconstruct, but it never goes all the way back up to what you originally thought. And so then it's just this constant like reconstruct, deconstruct, reconstruct. Like for the rest of your life. And so I think that really helped like validate my own experience and then kind of know what to expect for the rest of our like, oh, we think we know something for a little bit and then we don't actually know it. So I've gotten very used to like, there's not answers and we actually don't know anything. and we're humans and make mistakes. And just, I don't know, those kinds of messages were a lot more like took root, I think, during that time. And I think I became a feminist during grad school.
Yeah. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like you're at the peak of Mount Stupid, and then it's like deconstruction happens. You go into the valley of despair, where it's like you don't know anything. And then it comes back up, slope of enlightenment, plateau of sustainability, you know?
What? I like that.
Like, yes,
That's fancy.
Dunning-Kruger effects, definitely recommended. But I look at like throughout my involvement in the community and stuff like that, of like all the times I was at the peak of Mount Stupid, like complete certainty of stuff, complete dismissal of any other school of thought. Like I thought I was like this elite philosopher, because like I knew that the answers that fundamentalists like, you know, expect. And so deconstruction happens, like you're saying, like throughout life. It's like then you think you know, and it's like, you know, you actually you don't know what you don't know, and then you find more stuff out, and it's like, yeah. So you said that you put a lot of this stuff like on a shelf. In another episode, Jennifer and I talked about something called shelf moments, where it's like all of a sudden too much stuff gets put on the shelf, like whether it's cognitive dissonance or whether it's like, you know, you're like, that's not right. Or like, why are they expecting this or something? And all of a sudden, like, you know, the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? You know, the shelf breaks and you're like, I can't be part of that anymore. Like, I don't believe that anymore. Did you have any shelf moments, or a moment that you were like, that is too much to ignore?
So I think about like a lollipop hiking trail, right? And I think that at some point I thought that I would get back to the beginning, like back to where I was before, which I think is a really common thing. We all think like, oh, well, let me get back to what it was before, right? Like everyone does that with different things. And I think at some point I realized like, I don't actually want to go back to where I was. And I don't even want to be on this path anymore. Like I'm going to go get my machete, and I'm going to go create like a path forward of a life that I want, instead of this life that like the church has told me to live. But like I was never good at, you know, like it was never enough. And so like, why do I want to live in that cycle of like always feeling bad about myself, when like I could go live a life that like I'm confident and free and like make my own decisions and choose my own friends and do things I want to do with my life. So say no.
The imagery of a machete is really profound to me, that there's like a path that you think you could just keep walking that's not working, and the alternative is to take your own machete and carve your own path through the woods.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I mean, I do a lot with that, or I do not with machetes, but I do a lot of carving my own path forward and figuring it out and being able to make mistakes. And I don't go into some shame spiral because I made a mistake or something didn't work or whatever.
There's a learning curve to that, because of the comfort that comes from like having all your decisions spelled out for you, or like the predictability that comes with high control community. Like it has its downfalls for sure, like the control for one, but in a sense, like for some people in certain developmental stages, like the expectation of obedience, or like, yes, there is a right answer and I'm going to tell you what it is, and that's what you do, you know, like to a lot of people that can be comforting. And then like you come out of it not having all the critical thinking skills that maybe your peers do that weren't part of that community. And so I think there's a learning curve to be able to make mistakes and make decisions on your own, and then troubleshoot the consequences, or get used to saying no when previously you were expected to like say yes to every opportunity, make the most of all those moments and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's danger in the control of the certainty community, but there's also danger in the wilderness with the machete, because you have to learn to protect yourself. You don't have the community telling you what to do to like, quote, protect things. The dialectic is that there is safety and danger in both paths. Like you can You can find safety in high control religious groups, and there's danger there. You can find safety on your own with your own machete in the wilderness. There's danger there too. Like, we all choose.
Yeah.
No easy path.
Was your grad school a secular program?
That's a great question. I would say yes, it was a secular program at a Christian university. So the professors were Christians, but there was not, like in the grad school program, there was not like a infiltration of Christian thought into the schoolwork. Most of the classmates were not Christians.
Is there anything else that you want to add to your story?
There was a moment about a year ago that one of my kids, we were like out to eat, and also raising kids when you are like deconstructing and also not sure what the heck you believe is an interesting piece of this whole thing. So I think there's just a lot of like, we don't know the answers. Like there's that space of like, I don't want to influence them either way right now because we don't know what the heck we believe. And so there was a lot of time with that. And also like a couple years ago, we put them back at, like in public school and had been homeschooling them. So they're now exposed to multiple religions and multiple people and, you know, trains of thought and all of that, which has been, I think, a net positive. But they were developing their own belief systems there, and we're not influencing them very much. So there was one dinner, we're like out to eat, and my oldest turns to me. I don't know what the conversation is going on. The quote is, Mom, religion is a cult. And I didn't really know what to do with that. I think it was a shock just hearing it initially. And like, I don't know if I fully believe that even now. Like, I don't know. But it did bring up like a good conversation, and it did bring up a lot of, like, honestly, a conversation about like authenticity and like wanting our kids to be themselves and know we'll love them despite whatever their belief systems are. You know, just like it got to a deeper level of a conversation that was really sweet. But I think that stood out as a moment. And like to hear from one of our children what their belief system is was really interesting.
Yeah, that's a great story to like mark where you are and how it feels.
So I think at that time, knowing, I think a full acceptance for me of like, I'm not going back. Like, I'm actually okay not being a Christian, and looked back at some social media around that time and realized like I had kind of been starting to come out of the closet of like, hey guys, I'm not a Christian anymore. I think I like called myself an agnostic, and on social media, which was a really big deal for someone who likes to fly under the radar and not be seen about those kinds of things and questioned and not be on the pedestal that I had been on years prior.
Yeah, like publicly just saying you don't identify as Christian is a pretty big moment.
It's kind of a big moment.
Yeah.
So I guess that was about a year ago.
Okay. Here you are.
Here I am.
Wonderful. So as we're kind of like getting to the end of your story, I'm curious, what comes to mind when you think of healing from religion? Does that evoke anything in you? Do you feel like you've healed or not? Like, what does that mean?
I think about the poster that is the like healing is not linear, where it's like, it even does like a loop, and then it, you know, goes forward and does like another loop. And it's this like onward trajectory of growth, but it's not linear for sure. And it feels like that. I think there's been so many layers, and then like things that come up, like you think you do all this work, and then year 17 of marriage, we're like, hey, there's this other thing that like it's still impacting. So I think in general, like it's not all packaged up, it's not all shiny, there's not a bow on it, but like I don't want there to be, like that's not my expectation. I think that was definitely an expectation of the church on like if you went through something that was hard and then like you share about it when it's all shiny and packaged up and you can like put a bow on it and deliver it to someone. And so for me, I'm okay with it being this like open box, and there might still be stuff that comes up that I need to process and deal with as I live my life. But in general, I feel like there's definitely like an acceptance space of where I'm at. And, like I'm not afraid of growing, or I'm not afraid of it being messy as I keep going.
That is incredibly beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Oh,
So to wrap it up, do you have any words of wisdom for our listener out there?
As I told a client a few months ago, like it's okay to not know, right? Like it's okay to be in the space of figuring it out and take the time, all the time in the world you need, and to not have the answers.
yeah.
There's freedom in that.
Mm-hmm. You could be flexible with your philosophies, honestly.
You could.
Well, I feel so much gratitude for you, like taking this on. This is like it feels to me like such a vulnerable thing to share your story. I know for certain there will not just be one listener, because as you're sharing, I'm like, this is going to resonate with like so many, whoever does listen, I really feel like it will resonate. And like, I appreciate you so much. And thank you for coming on here and telling us all of this.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me and listening to my story.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cristine.
I
loved it.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.
Me too. Well, thanks everybody. This was a really special episode, and I am glad that you guys got to hear it. And you can catch us next time. Everybody, hope you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.